Hello, and welcome to another installment of Become Involved. My name is Paul McCallie. I am the town manager for the town of Merrimack. With me today, I have Tim Thompson, the Community Development Director, and we're here to talk to you about the Zoning Board of Adjustments. Hello, Tim.
Afternoon, Paul. How are you?
Good, good. Tim, what is the Zoning Board of Adjustment?
The Zoning Board of Adjustment is a statutorily required board for any community that has a zoning ordinance. Merrimack has had zoning since the 1950s, which divides the town into multiple residential, commercial, and industrial districts and determines how development takes place in those zones. The Zoning Board is the board that allows for relief from those standards in unusual circumstances. It's essentially a relief valve for when an applicant or a property owner needs to be able to do something that our regulations don't allow for.
Do they meet often, or once a month, 3 times a month, every week?
The Zoning Board meets 12 times a year, so once a month. It's the last Wednesday of each month at 7 o'clock here in the Matthew Thornton room at Town Hall. Meetings usually run an hour to a couple hours, depending on the volume of applications that we see, but it's generally a once a month, unless there's unusual circumstances where we need to call a special meeting.
Okay. And the type of, when you talk about applications, what are they dealing with? Are they dealing with, like, I want to build a garage, or?
It's a variety of things. For example, probably the most common thing the zoning board deals with is a variance for a property setback. Every district has certain distances that you need to be from a property line when you're constructing an addition to your home or a new structure. A lot of times, especially if the lot is older or has an unusual shape, a property owner may not be able to meet those setbacks, so they have the ability to come to the board and ask the board to grant them relief from that requirement. And if the board were to grant it, then they would be able to move through the permitting process.
Great. So if I want to volunteer for the zoning board, how do I do that?
I'd always suggest that if you have an interest in any planning or zoning topic, feel free to stop by at the Community Development Office at the lower level of Town Hall. Myself and my staff are always more than willing to talk about what it is that the boards and commissions do in town. For the zoning board specifically, you don't need to have any special expertise, just an interest in serving your community. We certainly can bring everybody up to speed in terms of what the roles and responsibilities are, provide training opportunities, and make sure that you know what you're doing before you get up in front of those cameras.
Okay. And you talked a little bit about training. Is there other training available through other agencies?
Absolutely. We partner with the state of New Hampshire. They have an Office of Strategic Initiatives. They provide training opportunities for board members throughout the year, both online in webinars and in person at workshops and conferences. We're also members of the New Hampshire Municipal Association, which is a advocacy group for all municipalities in the state, and they also offer those types of training opportunities as well.
Oh, so basically you learn about the law.
Exactly.
Okay. And what kind of roles are in this committee? Are there full-time and alternates?
Sure. The zoning board is by statute 5 full-time members that are appointed by the town council here in Merrimack. And then we have the opportunity of having up to 3 alternate members. Alternates can fully participate in the meeting, ask questions, participate in the discussion on the applications. However, unless they're appointed for a missing regular member, those alternates don't actually vote, but they can still participate in the process.
So if I heard you correctly, our full-time are appointed for a 3-year period?
Yep.
And
Every board member in Merrimack for the zoning board is appointed for a 3-year term. They're staggered so that we don't have the entirety of the board turning over every couple of years. And those 2-year terms, as we said, are every June, the council goes through an appointment process for those terms.
okay. Is there anything else? You know, we touched base a little bit about the zoning board and what they do, and we talked about a variance of a lot line, but it's also, they also do variances for commercial, industrial,
Right.
and residential, and things of that sort.
There are several different basic powers that the zoning board has. Variances are the most common. That's when an applicant is looking to do something that's specifically not allowed by the regulations. There's also a process called a special exception. Those are for different uses or types of development that are allowed, provided you meet certain conditions. The next thing that they do is we hear what are called appeals of administrative decision. So if our building inspector or planning and zoning administrator were to make a determination interpreting the ordinance that you don't agree with, you have the ability to appeal that to the zoning board, who can basically weigh the merits of that and determine whether or not the decision was made was correct. And then the last power that they have is what's called an equitable waiver of dimensional requirements. And that's a specific state law that when you have structures or things that don't meet a setback requirement, or a lot that doesn't meet a lot size requirement but has existed for a length of time without any violations or anything like that, there's a specific process under state law that allows the board to grant those in a much more easier fashion.
Sounds like a lot of interesting information and a lot of interesting details they handle. And look at.
The zoning board doesn't quite have the same breadth of responsibilities as the planning board does. They are very narrowly focused on those appeal processes that are set forth in state law. And every board member becomes very familiar with what they call the 5 points of law, which is, in a variance case, there's a state law that says these are the 5 things that must be met in order for the zoning board to grant.
Great. Thank you for joining me today, Tim. I want to thank everybody for watching us. Hopefully you learned some more information about our Zoning Board of Adjustment. And if you'd like to become more involved, please visit the Town of Merrimack's website, www.merrimacknh.gov, and become involved.